And now, it's time for another Dice Tower review with Tom Vasel.
Hey folks, I'm Tom Vasel, and we're taking a look today at Space Station Phoenix. Imagine, if you will, a game covered with symbols all over the cards, all over the board. You're not quite sure what any of them mean, and it's set in space. If you're imagining a game from Rio Grande Games, you'd be correct, because that is what they do with their space games. The most notable being Race for the Galaxy. This one's a little bit different. In this game, you have a fleet of ships and you're building a space station, but you kind of desperately need materials to build the space station, so you're going to dismantle your ships. That's kind of an interesting idea. And so that's how this game is going to work. You're going to have a bunch of actions, use those actions to build a space station, but your actions are going to multiply and compound on each other and get better as the game goes by. We call these types of games engine building games, because you're building a game engine and the mechanisms. There's a lot of symbols though, and it takes up a lot of space. I'll just show you. So there's a lot going on in this game, and it looks fairly complex. So we're just going to kind of focus in on each player. This is a player board. At the beginning of the game, you're going to start with one of these. It's going to show you your starting resources. So for example, here you're going to start with 15 gems. That's the money currency in this game, 10 metal, and you start at level 1 on 2 of the tracks on the board. On the front of it, it's going to show you special abilities. The rest of your board is the same as everybody else. Each player is going to get 5 ships that are the basic ships. So you can see these 5 ships here, and then you'll be drafting 2 level 2 ships and 2 level 3 ships. These are actions that you can take over the course of a game. On a player's turn, they are going to either activate a ship on the board. It doesn't even have to be your ship. It can be somebody else's ship. When you activate a ship, you essentially have to pay to use that ship. So for example, if I want to activate this ship, it says put 3 on it. So I'd have to pay 3 to do that. Once there are gems on a ship, you cannot use that ship again until they're removed. If you're using someone else's ship, let's say Camilla wants to use my ship, then she would have to put the 3 here, just like I would normally, but also there's a second number. She would have to pay me 1. So when you use someone else's ship, you have to pay an additional cost, but you do block them from using it. The other option that someone can do is, instead of using a ship, is they can take income. When you take income, you're going to look at all the orange abilities. So for this one here, this is a very simple one. It just says I'm going to get 1 gem for each ship I have. And I have 9 ships, so that's 9 gems. So there are 6 basic kinds of ships in the game. 5 basic level 1s. There are 2 ships that will just give you, when you go there, you're going to get water or food, which are resources that you'll use over the course of the game. The other ships, if you get a level 3 or level 2, just give you some sort of bonus for that same action. So this one here, you're going to scrap one of your other ships. And so if you pick this action, I could say I'm going to scrap this ship. It's gone forever. You take it out of the game. But you get this much metal. Unless you use something like this one here, which would give you 2 extra metal for scrapping that ship. Metal's a pretty rare resource in this game. One of the best ways to get it is by scrapping your ships. Another thing you can do is you can build. One of the things you're doing in this game is you're building your space station up, and you're going to be building from these. There's 4 different sizes and 3 different colors. So level 1, 2, and 3 of pink, brown, and green, and you have a number of each one equal to the number of players. When you build, you can pick any of the level 1s and pay that much metal that it shows. This one costs 6. If I already have a pink level 1, I could build a pink level 2, etc. When you build it, you're going to place it on your space station. So you see there's a level 1 of pink, a level 2. I might put a level 1 green here. You can only have 1 of each level per color, so nobody can ever get blocked out. Now what you want to do as the game goes by is to place aliens that match it. So blue aliens would go here, and the pink aliens would go into these as you move across them. And you can also get humans, which can go anywhere, and there's also wild aliens, which can go anywhere. These are going to do all different things. Sometimes they give you an immediate benefit when you take it, but usually you'll see this gem is in orange, this water droplets in orange has around it. They will provide you more stuff when you have income, Or sometimes you'll see this box is blue. That means when I take the corresponding blue ship action here, that's going to give me some sort of benefit. In this case, I get 2 gems whenever I take that action. None of these things work, though, unless you have an alien or a human in the corresponding spot. The trading action here will give you a certain number of trades that you can do, which it shows you on your board what you can do for a trade. So you can pay 1 food and 1 water to take one of the basic 3 colored aliens, the brown, the pink, and the blue. You can take the gold wild one for a water and food and a gem. You can turn in any 2 resources for 1 resource, and you can pay any 3 gems for a resource. And the number of times you can do that is a number of transactions it shows on the card. Then you have the dice action here. So on this one, you roll dice, and there's 2 numbers on the card. So this one shows 6 and 4, while this better one here would show 8 and 5. But I would roll 6 dice, and I get to keep 4 of them. So this is one of the main ways to get resources. You'll see this shows water and food and metal, but it also shows humans. When you have a human, you can immediately take that human, if you pick it as one of your dice, as long as you pay 1 of each of the other resources. And in fact, if I rolled this here, I could say I take these 3 resources and immediately get a human, which I can put in my space station. Or I might say, you know what, I don't want to take any of these humans, I'm just going to observe them. So you observe all 3 of them, or however many you pick, and you simply get 1 victory point each. So rolling dice is going to give you bonuses and benefits, and it's a good way to get resources. Then the final action is the diplomacy one here, which lets you move up tracks. This is where the yellow player starts in tracks, and there would be circles for all the different players. But when you're playing this game, whenever someone takes one of these 4 actions, every action there except the diplomacy action is represented. When you take a diplomacy action, you're going to be able to pay to move up on the track, and the cost is right there to move up on them. So whenever one of these actions is activated, so let's say that someone activates the build action. Then red, who is the highest on this, every time, it doesn't matter who activates it, will get any bonus at their space or below it. So red could take a medal, a victory point, 2 gems, or 1 gem. You get to pick. If there's a tie, or if you are below the leader, it's the same thing. You can pick anything except for the spot you're in. So here red could take a medal, yellow can't take this one, they have to take something below them, would take 2 gems. And this happens every time these are activated. This is going to continue on. You'll notice there's some neutral ships here at the bottom of the board. A player can use those. You have an extra disc that you would place on these. They're more expensive than your ships, but you might have gotten rid of all the ships that do a certain action. These you'll never get rid of. And these come off the board, and all the gems in your ship come off the board whenever you take income. So the game is going to end when one of a few things is going to happen. When you run out of aliens up here and you're down to 4 less total aliens. Or when somebody hits 40 points on the track, it's going to end the game. Or when someone completely builds their space station. At the end of the game, you're going to get victory points for how much you've built your space station. Each level 1's worth 4 points, 6 points, 10 points. So if you build all 3 sections, you could get 60 points. Everybody in your space station is worth 2 points each. And then it's possible for you to have endgame victory conditions. Let's say, for example, I built this one here. So this one says at the end of a game, for every purple alien I have, I get a victory point, which is pretty cool. And also if I have level 6, every time I take the green action, I get a free alien. So you have to kind of put this together and figure out the best combos. Sometimes you'll even start with a center of your space station that gives you a point. Like this one here also gives a point for pink aliens at the end of the game. So you'll add all this stuff together, plus the points you've scored during the game, and whoever has the most points is the winner. This game looks like a mess. It's a big table hog, and I don't mind that part as much, but I'm telling you, the number of people, I was playing this at the game store, who came by and said, oh, this looks really heavy, and it's not particularly heavy. I understand the symbols now that I played it. I get this one works. This lets you have a reroll when you're taking the blue action. This one gives you an extra trade when you take the trade action. This gives you a free human when you take that action. It's pretty easy, but it isn't easy to see. Even the track board here, the symbology is not particularly easy to see. If you move up on the track, you get to take 2 of anything below it. This lets you take 2 of anything below that. I do like that the aliens there are different shapes. That's kind of cool, and that they fit into your space station, but again, it just looks kind of like a mess. Even the ships themselves, I like the art. They're cool looking, but this looks so much more complex than it is. Now, that being said, once you understand how the game works, I found that this is not particularly a problem. I'm like, oh, blow up ship, build. You will get it. But I think the initial reaction people have to it, it's going to be a little tough. And there are so many extra pieces not used in the game. Like you don't use every space station piece, so you have to separate them out. And this box is very full over the course of the game. Also, I'm kind of amused at the reference guide. So you have a quick turn guide that tells you all the ship's actions and final scoring at the end of the game. Okay, that's a pretty big reference guide there, but it works. Then on the back is a score sheet, which you can't actually use as a score sheet but you can photocopy it. I just thought that was kind of interesting. Also, all these aliens have names which no one's going to use. But then you have another reference guide which explains every sector and all the hubs that you can start with and what they do. And this is kind of like a text. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm glad this exists because sometimes I don't know what the symbology means, but it feels a little unnecessary to me. But the components are, I mean, these are nice. The food and stuff is just cubes. It's fine. It just doesn't look great. Okay, so this game is one that I enjoy a lot. Like I said, I'm not a huge fan of the just the kind of the spread. And when I teach it to people, I almost have to stop some of them from fleeing the table because this game really looks more complex than it is. The fact of the matter is you only have some basic actions and you learn them pretty quickly. Dismantle a ship, build part of the space station, roll them dice, get resources, move up on the tracks. It's not that difficult. And the game moves so quickly, you almost have no downtime. And so that's one of the biggest positives to this game, and it's also a small negative. The big positive is no matter whose turn it is, you watch what action they do. It's a pretty quick action. I'm going to dismantle a ship, take some things. I'm going to roll some dice, whatever. The problem is, or the benefit is every time an action's taken, you have to look at those tracks to see who's the highest in the track, to see who's on that track at all. You want to move up those tracks because you want every time someone takes an action that you get something out of it. But it is, the negative part of that is, and even though it's, there's all kinds of stuff going on, the negative part of that is occasionally it might feel like you don't have some time to breathe, which I don't think is a big deal, but that track is easily missed. Like, because actions are so fast, I'll dismantle a ship. Next person goes, I'm also dismantling a ship. The next person says, I'm going to take income. Wait a minute, did you just dismantle a ship? We need to check the track and see who gets resources or points or whatever. That's going to happen a lot because that happens on every single turn of the game. The only time it doesn't happen is when someone takes a diplomacy action to actually move on the tracks, or when they take income. But any other action is going to trigger those tracks, and so that's constantly going on and on and on, and so it's easy to miss stuff. But the actions themselves are really fun. Dismantling a ship is a weird one, because you are actually taking away one of your actions permanently out of the game. But it's the fastest way to get metal. There's no other really good way to get metal. Rolling dice, the metal is on one of the 6 sides, so you might get it. You don't even have re-rolls, although there are some space station hubs that give a re-roll type thing, but that's a harder thing to get. So you can get some metal that way. You can get other resources and change them into metal with the trade action, which is pretty tricky. And there's some space station things that will provide you with metal. That's probably not enough. If you want to fully build your space station, you are going to blow up your ships. So which ships do you blow up? Do you blow up the ones that you're not going to use? I have 2 of these ships. I'll get rid of the smaller, weaker one. Okay, that's kind of interesting. And so you do that. But you might also get rid of your good ships and just say, you know what, I'm going to pay my opponents to use their ships. And I find this to be a really fascinating thing because you are building an engine while at the same time disassembling an engine. And I've never seen a game do both of those simultaneously. It doesn't feel like the game is getting smaller, and that's one thing I like. Because yes, you're losing ships over the course of the game. It would be rare that you don't dismantle at least some of your ships. But as you build these space stations, you make your actions better. Like whenever I take a trade action, I also can do this, I also can do that, I also get to roll these dice. That's cool comboing. And that's what I like about this game, is the fact that there are multiple combos that can be played in it. And since the variety of space station parts is going to change from game to game, you cannot kind of rest on this is the combo I'll always build. The dice is simple and fun. Roll some dice, keep some. Pretty easy. The theme is barely there. You're getting aliens. The only part of the theme, we laugh at the part where it's like observe humans to get victory points. And it's like, well, kind of being a little bit of a creeper there. Where aliens like, what are you doing? But man, I feel like there's a lot of good, cool decisions to make, and you make them really fast. It's this constant flow of decision making around the table. And then the monetary system here, the smaller ships are really cheap to use. The bigger ships, which give the tiniest of discounts, are critical discounts, but they cost a lot more. And do you use someone else's ship? Sometimes I use someone else's ship just to stop them from using it, which is kind of a fascinating thing. So there's some minor rules, and like you can only take income in this game if you meet some requirements, and the rules make a big deal about that, and it's not a big deal. Because really what it means is you can't just start taking income at the beginning of the game and build up a ton of income, then play. You can only take income if you have less than 7 money, or if there's some gems on ships in front of you, or if you can't take any other action. And the fact of the matter is, you can almost always take income. Simply put, you just can't usually take income twice in a row. And I almost would have just made that the rule to simplify that you can't take income twice in a row. But there would probably be some edge case where someone desperately does need to take income twice in a row. It's not a looker, and I think that's going to hurt this game. It just looks like a humongous spreadsheet out on the board. But I think it's fun, I think it's different, and it's one that you should check out. So that's Space Station Phoenix. I'm Tom Vasel. We'll see you next time. Dice Tower Judgment approved!